I'm here.
Tom McDonald, Jennifer Finley, Jim Molitaire, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt. Here. Bing Matt. Bing, James Steele Jr.,
Here.
Martin Charlo,
I'm here.
Lanice Trahan. Here.
This morning, please. Sure. It's 7 minutes.
I want to make sure in the minutes it reflects that I was in Helena providing testimony.
Comment in regards to Vice Chairman's comment about the low cost block, the revenue from the low cost block. And when we had that discussion with Greg, I mentioned that we need to put a we need to put a time frame on that so we can get that done. And after we close the discussion, there wasn't a time frame set on there. But I think we need to bring that up again and get a time frame so we can report that back to the membership. Especially with the rates starting to go up now, people are needing help. I know my bill almost doubled, and I can just imagine a lot of other people are in the same situation. So,
Greg will be in this afternoon.
the minutes with corrections. Second by Jimmy. All in favor? Any additions to the agenda? 3 walk-ins? Approve the agenda with additions? Second by Danielle. All in favor? Also this morning, I just learned that we lost another tribal elder, Doreen Valley, and I would like to have the flags remain at half-mast for during her services.
Thank you, Lynn. Morning. The microphone on so that our recording secretary can hear you?
Is that active there? Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Matt Jones. I'm the Executive Director of Public Affairs for BNSF Railway. I live in Bozeman and my office is in Helena. I handle public affairs for BNSF in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. So that's my territory. I'm on the road a fair amount, and I was in the Flathead and thought it would be a good idea for me to come by and meet you in person and talk to you about some of the changes since BNSF has taken over operations of what used to be Montana Rail Link. So as you are probably aware, the rail line from Billings through Livingston, Missoula, and over to Sandpoint has been operated by Montana Rail Link, which was one of the Washington companies for the last 36 years or so. That was leased from BNSF, and Dennis Washington decided to terminate that lease, and so BNSF is now operating that line. And that happened on January 1st, 2024. So we've been operating along this territory for the last year, and we've been learning a lot about just how MRL has been operating the railroad and projects they've been involved with. And so there are plenty of opportunities for us to get to know the members of the communities along the former MRL line and talk about BNSF and how we work with communities on economic development projects. We're working with a number of tribes in the Pacific Northwest on fish passage grants. So there have been a lot of opportunities with NOAA funding to get grants to improve culverts and things like that to improve fish passage. And so we've got a team that just work with communities, local governments, tribal governments to see what federal funding might be available, and we can help write those grants and provide engineering assistance and things along those lines. In addition, safety is the most important thing to BNSF. We're the safest railroad and have been consistently for the last 9 years. We've been far and away the safest railroad in the United States. And to that end, we have a public projects group that works with communities across our network to identify where we need to make improvements on public crossings, private crossings, and things like that, because one of the areas where there's the most exposure to the conflict between the public and the railroad is at crossings. And so if we can add signalized crossings or grade separations, those are closing crossings is the best way to improve safety. But you can also do an overpass or an underpass. And so we work with communities to identify those funding projects. So I don't know how much time you have this morning. There was one important issue that I wanted to mention as we've started taking over Montana Rail Link. They were involved in upgrading some of their communication systems, and they were installing positive train control communications towers. And they started the permitting process through the Federal Communications Commission for several towers in Missoula County. So it's from the city of Missoula east about 18 miles. No, I'm sorry, 26 miles. 13 towers. They were in the process of reviewing whether or not they needed to apply for permits. They decided they did not need, or that they felt they would be exempt based on conversations with the State Historic Preservation Office. Once BNSF started operating the railroad, we decided that the permits were necessary, and we initiated the 106 consultation process. Turns out those towers had been built. BNSF sent out notifications of the 106 consultation, failed when our consultant prepared the notice, failed to mention that those towers were already constructed. And we did receive a request to monitor the installation of those towers. Obviously, that's not possible now. So I wanted you to learn this from me. We will be, unless you advise otherwise, we'll work with the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer to figure out how best to remedy that. We can obviously do a site visit, and these are very small footprint towers, but obviously, the consultation process is very important to us. We're aware of it. We know that it's important to you and to the areas. I mean, we operate through very important lands, culturally and environmentally, and so we take that responsibility very seriously. I'm sorry that this happened, and this has to be one of the first things that I talk to you about, but I just want you to know that we'll make it right, and so we'll work with you to address any concerns you might have.
I appreciate that, Mr. Jones. Yeah, that consultant on that whole area is quite important to us.
Yeah.
It really is. Carol, you had something.
First of all, I want to thank you and recognize you for realizing how important our cultural resources are to us. Secondly, I'm glad you talked about safety, because I remember an incident where Montana Rail Link came in and they were doing inspections on their bridges, and they hadn't done an inspection on this particular bridge, and I don't know if all of them or just this particular one, for 50 years. And it got to be kind of like a joke, and I thought, this is really serious. We're talking about our waterways, and so if something was to happen, with the rail line and all the petroleum, whatever they go across with, it's serious if that stuff falls in the river. Even the beer that fell in the river was a serious situation. So I just hope that you have a schedule, and I'm sure you do, on all the bridges and waterway passes that you have, to make sure that they are inspected regularly, because that was I thought that was pretty horrendous that he would just laugh it off. But yeah, it was. I've been on the council for a while, and it was quite a while ago when that happened, but I don't know if any other council member remembered it. But anyway, yeah, and also we have a lot of projects going on down, like in Dixon in particular. We've got a couple of things that we might be interested in, partnering or working with you and your philanthropy portion, if you have one, to do some work down there in Dixon area. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Danielle?
Mr. Jones, it's a pleasure to meet you. My name's Danielle. I'm from Chile, Montana, formerly Dixon. We're working through all of that process, and you're probably aware the rail lines run along the Jocko River and the Flathead River off Highway 200 and 212. I've got a complaint list that could probably take up a lot of time, so I'll try and be brief and maybe grab some contact information so we can visit or find a point of contact for my community members when they have the complaints. The most recent one is the idle trains. they'll sit and idle sometimes for days. The last complaint, there was one there for 5 days, and they don't shut off the engines. So just very noisy, disturbing. The amount of animals that are hit on the tracks annually, I'd be curious to see the numbers. There's so much wildlife that crosses those tracks, and I don't know what we do to make it safer for them. But when they hit an elk out on that, it can shut down the road for hours to get across into some of the homes and, you know, onto some of the main roads even. So we see those as some of our issues. And I'm not sure if you guys have the rail line that runs across up to 12 and up the Flathead River, but in my mind, it's abandoned at this point. It hasn't been maintained for so long. There's trees over the tracks, the crossings into residential areas. They are so bad, it's rough to take your cars across them. So we just, it's hard. I've had people try and call, and they never know who to get in contact with to even see if we can start to address some of the issues. So yeah, I hate to be the complainer, but I'm excited that maybe we've got a point of contact going forward so we can work on this. So yes, I'll get you my information, and if you can leave your information with us before you go, or who the best point of contact is, that would be wonderful.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Jones, thank you for visiting with us this morning. I think it's really imperative that we get a copy of your updated emergency disaster plan. If you can get that to our NRD folks and to the tribal council so we know if we ever have an incident. And secondly, I'd like to know when BNSF is planning on upgrading that railway through the Perma Canyon. Is there plans here in the future to replace the ties? Because I don't think that's been done in a number of years.
So you'll have to forgive me, I'm the Perma Canyon?
Yes, Perma, going from the line that's going west.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll have to get the previous maintenance schedule, and then I'll have to provide that or at a later date. I don't have that with me right now, but I'm happy to do that. We have, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, very aggressive maintenance and capital plan in order to maintain the BNSF network in the best possible condition. So I can assure you that, you know, we will maintain that line in the best possible condition. So okay. I will get you that information as soon as I can.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned, Mr. Jones, I appreciate you coming in, and I would suggest that if you just start coming in periodically and meeting with us, and because we always have issues with the railway. Right?
Yeah.
So okay.
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Daniel, you have something else?
Thank you. Sorry, one last follow-up. As far as discussion of safety, one of the complaints that you probably want to be aware of, just so you can talk with your people, they say the trains aren't blowing their horns at certain crossings, that it happens more often than we would assume. So it's not the main ones at the main road, it's the little ones that go into their residential areas, because there's so many crossings along that railway. And one of the things that I've had an issue with is we have, there's tribal land that comes off of 212, and there's river access all along it, and there is a gate there that is locked. And I've been told over and over and over again, it's a railroad easement, and the railroad locks that gate. And what that does is, that's where I went fishing as a kid, over and over and over again. There was no lock on there when I was growing up. And it's some of the best fishing holes that I know of in that area. And it really limits access to our community members for recreation, but also fishing to feed their families. So I would love to make sure we don't limit access to people, so we can enjoy the outdoor space that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Matt. Yeah, I appreciate you coming in as quick as you did after we met and kind of letting us know. And then, the other thing that I'm involved with is the Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority. I think we're rebranding, renaming, but, regaining passenger rail on that southern route, formerly the Hiawatha route. And that's something that'll pass through the southern boundary of our reservation and would be a good, as long as we do it well, it'd be a good opportunity for us to access healthcare and those kind of things in Spokane or going east to Billings, all the different places where we get healthcare from, and rather than driving during the winter time. So appreciate you coming in, and yeah, thank you.
Oh, you've got a little bit of an earful there, Matt. The one issue that's been really relevant to us in the last about 4 years is Montana Rail Link was parking cars all through that Dixon area, and they were blocking the travel in so many ways, especially for animals. And so I'm hoping we don't end up a parking lot for train cars again.
Ask a question on that?
Yes, sir.
So, I guess, would you mind, has that been mostly resolved, or what's been the status of that issue for?
Well, it took about 3 years, but then they removed all the cars. And so I don't think we have any parked now, do we? So I'm glad that that's the case, but
Okay.
that was an issue. And I don't know if he'll do the same, but I don't know, there were hundreds of cars parked along some of the unused track that was there.
Yeah, okay, that's good, helpful background to know. We do have to park cars when the economy turns down and demand for freight. We look for the areas to store those cars that are going to be the least inconvenient and unsightly for communities. And so I will make the team that's responsible for finding those locations aware that this is a problem area, and we will do our best to.
I think we actually had a house fire down at the agency, and they were moving cars at the time, and it was a real hazard. They were blocking access to get to this burning house.
So, okay. Thank you for letting me know.
But we certainly appreciate you coming in today and giving the report, and welcome. And come always.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to speak with you this morning. If it's all right, I've got business cards that I can share, and should I give them to the
Perfect
secretary here?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Executive.
We can go out of regular into executive.